Picture yourself in old Tokyo where the air hums with secrets and the night feels alive. You're stepping into Yoshiwara, the infamous red light district of the Edo period, a place where beauty masks a brutal truth. This isn't just a neighbourhood, it's a stage draped in incense and lantern glow where women called courtesans weave a fantasy so potent it hides their chains. These women aren't mere entertainers, they're artists, elite companions and masters of deception. Their lives a delicate dance between seduction and survival. But there's one topic nobody dares whisper about: what happens when a courtesan gets pregnant. From shadowy abortions to strange herbal brews and rituals that chill the blood, their methods are as shocking as they are heartbreaking. So before you settle in, hit that like button if you're ready for a journey and drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from and what's the vibe tonight? Dim the lights, maybe let a fan hum softly, and let's slip into this world together. Imagine you're wrapped in 12 layers of silk so tight your ribs protest with every breath. Your hair's pinned with enough metal to summon a storm, and your wooden shoes teeter so high one misstep could send you sprawling into the next life. This is the daily grind of a courtesan, where every gesture is performance, every smile a contract. Yoshiwara's streets buzz with the clatter of platform shoes and the murmur of sweet nothings, but behind the painted screens lies a truth as heavy as the silk. For these women, pregnancy isn't a blessing. It's a crisis that could unravel everything they've bled to maintain. You're still in Yoshiwara, where the air smells of jasmine and denial. The courtesans you see gliding past their kimonos, catching the lantern light, are no ordinary women. They're the elite, trained like warriors in the art of charm poetry, shamisen dance, and the knack for making any man feel like a king. But don't be fooled by the glamour. Their lives are less fairy tale, more gilded cage. Most were sold young, maybe 7 or 8, by families desperate for a sack of rice or a fleeting promise of a better life. Picture a girl barely old enough to tie her own obi thrust into a world where every step is choreographed, every word a debt. She learns to laugh at stale jokes, to pour sake with a steady hand, to pretend her heart isn't screaming. But here's the kicker: she owns nothing. Not her silk robes, not her hairpin, not even her own body. Every coin she earns funnels to the brothel owner, the Oya, who's less a mentor and more a puppeteer with a ledger. These women are investments polished to perfection. But there's one flaw: the system can't tolerate pregnancy. It's not just a hiccup, it's a disaster. A courtesan out of commission for 9 months is a loss no brothel can stomach. Worse, it's a scandal that could shatter the illusion of perfection Yoshiwara sells. So while the outside world sees grace and artistry, you're catching a glimpse of the truth. These women are bound by contracts tighter than their corsets, and a single misstep like a swelling belly could cost them everything. What's it like to live as a luxury hostage? You ask. Stick around, because this story's about to get darker. You're still in Yoshiwara, where the lanterns flicker like they're in on the secrets. Imagine signing a contract without ever seeing the ink your life handed over before you could even read the terms. That's the reality for a courtesan and the fine print. It's a trap woven tighter than the silk on her back. These women didn't stroll into this life with a resume and a dream. Most were sold as girls, some as young as 7, by families scraping by, or just tired of another hungry mouth. Picture a kid, her world still soft with wonder, traded for a handful of coins and a whispered, "It's for your future." The brothel becomes her universe: kimonos, hair oil lessons and tea ceremonies, all of it piling onto a debt she'll never outrun. By the time she's old enough to charm clients, she owes more than a merchant's failed gamble. The contract, if you can call it that, isn't a choice, it's a leash. It dictates when you sleep, who you serve, how you tilt your head just so to catch the light. And the biggest rule: your body's not yours, especially not for something as reckless as pregnancy. Get pregnant and you're not just breaking a rule, you're torching the brothel's bottom line. Clients, a merry band of samurai merchants and poets drunk on cherry blossom metaphors, don't sign up for consequences. If a courtesan slips up, the blame lands square on her like she tripped into motherhood by accident. The contract's unspoken clause is clear: keep the illusion flawless, or pay a price heavier than all that silk. What happens when that illusion cracks? Let's find out. Now you're deeper in Yoshiwara's shadows, where the air feels thick with dread. For a courtesan, pregnancy isn't a glowy milestone, it's a plot twist that could end her career, or worse. Picture yourself in her place. You're the star of this silk-wrapped show, trained to make every client, no matter how loud or leering, feel like the hero of his own epic. Your job is to pour sake, strum the shamisen, and keep the fantasy airtight. But then you feel it a shift, a secret growing inside you. Suddenly your body's a traitor, threatening to shatter the illusion Yoshiwara's built on. Pregnancy here isn't a miracle, it's a malfunction. A courtesan's value hinges on her being available, not off sipping ginger tea and knitting booties. If you're out of the game for 9 months, the brothel's losing coin, and they don't take kindly to that. The clients, they're not signing up for diapers, they want moonlight and mystery, not morning sickness. The moment your obi starts straining, you're not just a woman, you're a liability. Whispers start behind the screens. She's slowing down. She looks different. The brothel's watching, and the stakes are brutal. Demotion to the grimiest clients, locked rooms or worse exile with nothing but shame to your name. You're alone in this, no baby showers or sage advice, just a ticking clock in a world that demands perfection. How do you hide a secret this big? That's where the real performance begins, and trust me, it's not for the faint of heart. You're still in Yoshiwara, where every smile hides a storm. Imagine you're a courtesan, your heart pounding as you realise you're pregnant. The brothel's eyes are everywhere, and your secret could cost you everything. You can't just call in sick or confide in a friend. Trust is a luxury you don't have. So you become a master of disguise, not just with makeup, but with lies. Morning sickness. You blame it on last night's fish, flashing a weak smile as you sip water to keep it down. Feeling faint, just a long night of dancing, you laugh while your knees wobble like a poorly tied obi. A missed cycle. You dodge the question with a flutter of your fan, changing the subject to a client's favourite poem. Every day is a performance, and the stage is rigged with traps. You walk differently, hips tilted to hide any hint of a curve, your obi cinched so tight you see stars. You avoid lingering looks, keep your robes loose, and pray no one notices the way you pause before bending to pour sake. Behind the paper screens, you're not just hiding a pregnancy, you're waging a silent war against your own body. The other courtesans might suspect, but they've got their own battles. Some slip you a knowing glance, others turn away afraid to get tangled in your trouble. You're alone weaving a web of half-truths, knowing one slip could unravel it all. How long can you keep this up? Not forever, but you'll try, because in Yoshiwara, survival means keeping the truth buried deeper than your heart. In Yoshiwara's dim back rooms, where the air smells of fear and defiance, you're clutching a steaming cup of tea that's anything but soothing. As a pregnant courtesan, you've heard the whispers remedies passed like forbidden scrolls among the women. This isn't chamomile for a restless night. It's a brew of mugwort safflower and licorice roots steeped so strong it burns your throat. They call it the 3-leaf tea, not 5 fives for headaches, 3s for ending what you can't keep. You gulp it down, wincing, praying to gods you barely believe in that it works. These herbs aren't gentle, they're a gamble with your insides. Mugwort twists your gut like a wrung cloth safflower, makes your skin prickle like it's on fire, and licorice root in doses this wild could send you seeing spirits. Did it work? Sometimes. Other times it leaves you curled up, sweating, bleeding, or worse, hallucinating a future you'll never have. You've heard the warnings, too much safflower and your skin burns raw. Skip the ginger or it won't hit fast enough. It's half science, half superstition, all desperation. Yet you keep working, smiling through the cramps, pouring sack for men who'd recoil if they knew. The tea's your secret weapon, brewed in the dead of night, but it's no saviour, just a roll of the dice. If it fails, you'll climb to darker rungs of this ladder, because in Yoshiwara there's no turning back, only deeper into the shadows. You're deep in Yoshiwara's underbelly now, where the lantern light barely reaches. As a pregnant courtesan, the herbal teas have failed and panic claws at your chest. You've heard whispers of the Basan old women who work in the shadows, not midwives of lullabies, but fixers of forbidden problems. These aren't kindly grannies. They're survivors, often former courtesans themselves, their faces etched with time and secrets. No signs mark their doors, no lanterns invite you in. You get a name, a folded note slipped under your sleeve, and a warning: bring coin and courage. You knock at midnight, heart hammering on a door that creaks like it's judging you. Inside, it's all crude tools, sharpened sticks, cloth rags, a pot of boiling water steaming in the dark. No surgical steel, no clean bandages, just a gritty promise of silence. You lie on a mat, biting your lip as the Basan works her hand steady but sharp, no questions asked. Pain sears through you, blood stains the floor, and you pray the gods are looking elsewhere. Payment might be a hairpin, a silk sash, or a perfume bottle she'll wear like a trophy. The risks: infection, bleeding out, or a womb that'll never work again. Some girls don't make it back to the brothel. They caught a fever, the story goes, but you know better. These midwives are your last hope, grim saviours in a world that offers none, and their silence is the only kindness you'll find in this desperate dance with ruin. In Yoshiwara, even a bath can turn deadly. You're a courtesan, your secret pregnancy, a noose tightening daily, and the herbal brews didn't work. Now you're crouched in a hidden room, steam rising from a tub so hot it feels like vengeance. The boiling bath method isn't about relaxation, it's a brutal attempt to force your body to reject what it's carrying. You've heard the hushed instructions: stay in until you're dizzy, add mugwort to the water drink sake first to dull the edge. You slide in the heat, biting your skin like 1,000 needles, your breath catching as your body screams to get out. They say if you faint, it's working. Comforting advice, right? You grit your teeth, sweat, mixing with tears, and try to stay calm because noise could betray you. The water scalds, your head spins, and you clutch the tub's edge, willing it to end. Some girls add herbs, hoping the mugwort's bitter magic will tip the scales. Others just endure their skin red as shame. The risks are grim: burns, shock, heat, stroke. Stories float of women dragged unconscious from baths, dying quietly while the brothel hums on. It's fast, cheap and discreet, needing only water and willpower, but it's a gamble with your life. You stay in counting breaths because in Yoshiwara a baby could cost you everything, and a near-fatal soak is just another night's work. If this fails, darker paths await, and you're not sure how much more you can take. You're still weaving through Yoshiwara's maze where every step feels like a tightrope walk. As a pregnant courtesan, the baths and teas have failed, and now you're turning to a quieter kind of desperation: tight binding. Picture yourself wrapping long strips of cloth around your waist, pulling them taut until your breath comes in shallow sips. This is Havrabee, a makeshift corset for a secret you can't afford to show. You're not just hiding a pregnancy, you're trying to squeeze it out of existence, or at least buy time before the brothel notices. Each loop of fabric feels like a promise to keep the illusion intact, but it's a lie that costs you dearly. Your ribs ache, your stomach protests indigestion. That's a distant memory. You move like a puppet, every gesture calculated to avoid loosening the bind. Standing straight isn't about grace, it's about keeping pressure on your womb, because slouching could mean discovery, and discovery means doom. You pour sake with a serene smile, but inside you're fighting dizziness, maybe even fainting spells. Some nights you sleep with the cloth still on, hoping the constant grip might convince your body to give up. It doesn't work that way, of course. At best you delay the inevitable. At worst you're risking ruptured tissues or bleeding that won't stop. But in Yoshiwara, where appearances are law, a flat belly is worth more than your comfort or your life. You keep binding because the alternative is losing everything you've endured to hold on to. In Yoshiwara's flickering shadows, you're grasping at straws, or rather rice balls soaked in sake. As a pregnant courtesan, you've tried everything else, and now you're turning to folklore's fragile hope. Imagine sitting in a cramped room, the air heavy with incense as you unwrap a cloth bundle to reveal rice balls marinated in vinegar and sake maybe spiked with crushed garlic or pickled plum. The taste is sharp like regret with a side of nausea, but you swallow anyway, chasing whispers that fermented foods can wash the seed away. It's a fairy tale born of desperation passed from one trembling courtesan to another, or maybe from an old servant who's seen too much. You chant softly as you eat. Return to the river, little child, for now is not your time. Half prayer, half plea to a body that won't listen. The recipes vary. One brothel swears by ginger for speed, another by cold vinegar for potency. Does it work? Not really. You might retch your gut twisting in protest, but biology doesn't bend to folklore. Still, there's something human in this act, a flicker of belief in a world that's stolen your choices. You eat hoping for a miracle because it feels gentler than scalding baths or shadow midwives. The rice balls offer comfort, if not results. And in Yoshiwara, where your body belongs to everyone but you, that small act of faith is the closest thing to power you've got left. You're still caught in Yoshiwara's web where every secret weighs like lead. As a pregnant courtesan, you're desperate enough to consider the unthinkable telling the father. But let's be real that man's already halfway to nowhere. Picture yourself heart racing, dropping a hint to a client, maybe that samurai who swears you're his muse or the merchant who brings you trinkets. You muster the courage, your voice soft as you mention consequences. His face shifts, eyes darting smile gone, and before you can blink he's muttering about urgent business in Osaka. Poof, vanished like a ghost who never owed you a thing. These men drunk on sec and your flattery aren't here for reality. They pay for fantasy and a baby. That's a plot twist they didn't sign up for. Most are married with reputations shinier than their swords, and an illegitimate child from the pleasure quarters would torch their status. Even the rare ones who pause, maybe slipping you a few coins through a servant, stop short of anything real. You're trained not to expect loyalty. It's a rookie mistake to think a client's sweet words mean a damn. Yet some part of you clings to hope, remembering his gifts, his whispers. That hope crumbles fast. The father's silence isn't just personal, it's baked into the system. No letters, no visits, just another shadow in a world of them. You're left alone, the weight of your secret growing with no time to rage or cry, just the next client, the next lie, and a heart that's learning to harden. In Yoshiwara, the brothel isn't just your workplace, it's your jailer, and you've just broken its cardinal rule. As a pregnant courtesan, you've dodged and lied, but the whispers are closing in. Maybe you moved too slowly, ate too little, or just looked too fragile under those lanterns. The brothel's got eyes sharper than a katana, and now they're on you. Picture the shift, no warm words, just cold stares, and fans snapping like accusations. The rumours start. She's getting round. She's pale. The maid saw something. Suddenly you're not trusted to leave your room alone. Your so-called sisters are quizzed about your habits, and the work dries up not out of kindness, but because they're already eyeing your replacement. Then comes the hammer. Punishment depends on the brothel's mood, but it's never gentle. Some demote you to the dregs clients with sour breath and rough hands, the kind who make your skin crawl. Others lock you in a room, a velvet cage, until you fix the problem. The cruelest ones just toss you out. No coin, no kimono, just a bundle of shame and a warning to the rest. In the fancy houses, they might play polite saying you're visiting family, but everyone knows the code. Pregnancy isn't a slip-up. It's a betrayal of the fantasy they sell. The brothel doesn't care about your tears or your fears, just the coin you're no longer making. You're erased quietly, coldly, because in Yoshiwara reality's not just inconvenient, it's the enemy. You're in Yoshiwara's darkest corners now where the lanterns barely flicker. As a pregnant courtesan, you've tried every trick tease bath's binding, but the secret's too big and the brothel's closing in. There's no confessing, no pleading for mercy. You've got one play left run. Picture yourself slipping out at midnight, shedding your ornate kimono for plain robes, your hair unpinned like a snake shedding its skin. You're no longer the glittering star of Yoshiwara. You're a fugitive branded a ninja, juroro, a runaway prostitute who dared break the fantasy. The brothel doesn't just frown on escape, it's illegal. Your property, and they take it personally when you bolt with a baby on board. You dart through alleyways, heart-pounding, hiding in laundry carts, or yes, really barrels anything to vanish into the night. Where to? Maybe a cousin's farm, a mountain shrine, or a fishing village where questions are as rare as sake. But freedom's a lie. The laws against you bounty hunters are real, and Yoshiwara's name clings like damp cloth closing doors wherever you go. Some get caught, dragged back for public punishment, a warning to others about the cost of free will. Others vanish entirely, becoming whispers. She's a nun now, or she reads fortunes in the hills. Running isn't rebellion, it's survival, a gamble for a life where you're more than a painted illusion. You flee not for glory, but for the smallest, most dangerous prize, a sliver of hope. In Yoshiwara, even birth is cloaked in silence. You're a pregnant courtesan, and you've run out of ways to hide. The tea's failed, the bath's burned, and running's no option, so you face the inevitable alone in the dead of night. Imagine squatting behind sliding paper doors, a towel stuffed in your mouth to muffle screams, because noise could mean exile. No birthing chairs, no cheerful midwives, just you, a flickering candle and terror so thick it chokes you. Maybe you're in a secret room the brothel pretends not to see, or a storage closet cramped among sack barrels and dusty robes. Some give birth outdoors under a moon that feels like it's judging you, handkerchief clenched between your teeth. If you're lucky, a servant girl or a retired courtesan slips in silent allies who bring boiled water and towels, their faces grim with understanding. No fanfare, no naming ceremonies, just a bundle of life wrapped in cloth hidden before dawn. You wipe the blood, fix your hair, and return to the brothel floor smiling as if your world didn't just crack open. The baby. It's a fleeting secret loved in stolen moments, fed in shadows. But you know it's temporary. Yoshiwara has no room for innocence. Every cry risks betrayal, every glance a confession. You've given life in a place that thrives on illusion, and the cost is a piece of your soul, buried with the screams you couldn't let escape. You're in Yoshiwara's twilight where hope feels like a bruise. As a courtesan who's just given birth in secret, you're cradling a tiny crying bundle, a life you can't keep. The brothel's walls close in, and every wail risks exposure, so you make the choice that rips your heart in two. Under cover of night, you slip out your baby swaddled tight and head to the edge of town to a place carved for sorrow, a koya shrine half worship, half graveyard. These stone altars tucked in society's shadows are where the unwanted are left. You kneel the ground cold against your knees and place your child on the steps, maybe with a charm or a folded prayer tucked into the cloth. No name, no goodbye, just a whispered wish that a monk or stranger might find them. You walk away each step heavier than the last because turning back would break you. If luck holds, a temple might take the child, raising them in silence. Others end up in orphanages, servitude, or simply vanish into the wind. You didn't leave because you're cruel, it's love twisted by a world that offers no path forward. The brothel won't allow a child, the law won't shield you, and running with a baby means starvation or capture. Locals say these shrines are haunted not by infants but by mothers, their cries echoing like invisible scars. You return to Yoshiwara, face painted heart hollow, knowing you've left a piece of yourself on those steps and offering to a dream that never had a chance. In Yoshiwara, even the dead demand to be heard. You're a courtesan haunted by the child you couldn't keep born or unborn, they linger, as Mizuko water children's spirits caught between worlds. Picture yourself stealing away to a quiet temple far from the brothel's glare where the air smells of moss and memory. Here you perform the Mizuko Kuyo, a ritual as delicate as it is devastating. You light incense, its smoke curling like a prayer, and offer tiny gifts. Baby toys, flowers, red bibs tied to Jizo statues, the guardian of lost children. You whisper, "I'm sorry, not for lack of love, but for a world that left no room for it." Your hands tremble as you pray, asking the gods to cradle what you couldn't. These spirits aren't just folklore. They're your shadow mirroring your own half-life, adored yet discarded, present yet unseen. Some say Mizuko bring misfortune if ignored, nightmares, illness, but for you it's the guilt that cuts deepest. You might return year after year, each visit a fresh wound, or go once and never look back, too afraid to feel it again. Either way, the ritual is your only act of motherhood, a fleeting claim on a bond the brothel stole. In the flicker of a lantern you honour what was lost, because in Yoshiwara, where forgetting is survival, some memories cling like damp silk, refusing to fade. You are at the heart of Yoshiwara now, where the laughter rings hollow and the silence speaks loudest. As a courtesan, you've carried the weight of secrets, pregnancy, lost, survival, and still you stand, painted lips curved in a smile that hides a battlefield. Picture yourself gliding through lantern-lit rooms, your kimono heavy with debt, your heart heavier with grief. You've danced through pain, poured sake while bleeding, laughed at jokes older than the brothel's walls, all while the world demanded your perfection. Strength here isn't a shout. It's a whisper, the kind that holds you upright when your knees want to buckle. You're not fragile like glass, but tough like porcelain, cracked but enduring. The other courtesans, your sisters in this gilded cage, share your unspoken code gestures over words, a smuggled remedy, a glance that says, "I see you." You've taught the younger ones how to lie, how to hide, how to survive one more night in a system that thrives on your obedience. No poet will sing of this resilience, no scroll will bear your name, but it's there in the tilt of your head, the steady pour of your tea, the tremble you don't let show. Your warriors in silk, artists of endurance, carrying the unborn, the forgotten, and the shame no one dares voice. They tried to erase you, but you're still here, a quiet defiance wrapped in rouge and grace. Tonight we honour you, not just the courtesans you were shaped to be, but the women you became, surviving a war no one else could see. Picture yourself by the American River, the water rushing past like it's got secrets to spill. It's January 24th, 1848, and you're James W. Marshall, a carpenter with calloused hands and a job to do building a sawmill for John Sutter, a man dreaming of a quiet empire of crops and cattle. You're poking around the tail race, the ditch that keeps the mill's wheels spinning, when something catches your eye. A glint in the mud, a flicker of yellow. You kneel, scoop it up, roll it between your fingers. It's heavy, soft, real. You bite it, because that's what folks do when they think they've struck gold, literally. Your heart skips. This isn't just a pebble. It's a spark that could set the world on fire. You show it to a colleague, then to Sutter, and he doesn't cheer, he freezes. Sutter's no fool. He knows gold means chaos, not wealth for his tidy plans. Miners, squatters, thieves, they'll swarm like flies to spilled sake. For a moment, you both try to keep it hush, a secret fortune tucked in your pocket. But whispers don't stay buried. By spring, the saloons are buzzing and sailors in San Francisco are ditching their ships. You're standing at the edge of history, and that tiny gleam you found is about to ignite the wildest migration America's ever seen. So grab a shovel, or maybe just settle in, hit that like button if you're hooked, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. This story's just getting started, and it's going to be a wild ride. You're in 1849 now, and California's no longer a sleepy frontier. It's a magnet pulling dreamers from every corner of the globe. That gold James Marshall found. It's not just a nugget anymore. It's a fever spreading faster than a brush fire. Picture ships clogging San Francisco Bay, their crews leaping overboard with shovels in hand, leaving ghost vessels bobbing in the tide. Towns empty overnight as men abandon jobs, homes, even families chasing a glint they've only heard about in whispers. You're one of them, maybe trudging through deserts or sailing around Cape Horn months at sea just for a shot at a golden miracle. From New York to Chile, from China to Australia, the call reaches you gold right there in the dirt. By year's end, California's population explodes from 15,000 to over 90,000, a human tidal wave. San Francisco morphs from a quiet port to a chaotic boomtown, tents sprouting like weeds, saloons ringing with shouts and gunfire. You hear hammers, pickaxes, and dreams breaking in the same breath. They call them the 49ers, these sunburned hopefuls, most with nothing but a pan and a prayer. Some strike it rich, others dig for months and find only blisters, but the fever doesn't care about odds. It's a madness that makes you believe the next scoop of mud could change everything. Drop a comment, where would you have headed in 49? Let's keep rolling, this rush is far from over. You're in California, 1849, and the gold fever's hit like a lightning strike. Where there's gold, towns sprout faster than weeds after a storm. Picture yourself standing in a muddy clearing. Yesterday it was just a stream. Today it's Hangtown, or maybe Whiskeytown names that sound like they were scrawled in a drunken haze. One miner strikes a nugget word, spreads, and suddenly hundreds of tents flap in the wind. Within weeks those tents turn to rickety shacks, then saloons 21020 popping up like mushrooms. You smell whiskey and sweat, hear the clink of glasses and the crack of fists. There's no mayor, no law, just mud and madness. A blacksmith sets up hammering out picks. A newspaper starts printing dreams and disputes. Gambling halls glow with candlelight where fortunes flip faster than a bad hand of poker. You're dodging men with short tempers and long knives, each one clawing for a piece of the dream. But it's lonely too, mostly men, dozens for every woman their letters home dripping with homesickness. By day you're knee-deep in icy rivers. By night you're drinking to forget the ache in your bones. Some towns, like San Francisco, explode into cities. Others vanish when the gold dries up, leaving ghost towns with broken glasses and empty jails. This is the gold rush, chaotic, filthy, burning with hope. Drop a comment. What would you name your boomtown? Stick around. Life here's about to get grittier. You're a prospector now, knee-deep in a freezing California river, the kind of cold that makes your teeth chatter like a bag of dice. It's 1849, and the gold rush has you gripped. Your life's no Hollywood epic, it's dirt, sweat, and a stubborn hope that keeps you swinging a pickaxe. You've got a shovel, a pan, maybe a tin plate, and if you're fancy, a rocker box to sift more dirt. No mining skills doesn't matter. You learn fast or you starve. Picture yourself hunched over a stream swirling mud for hours, eyes peeled for a yellow flicker. Some days you find dust, others nothing but blisters. You sleep in a tent if you're lucky under stars, if you're not rain soaking your clothes, snow freezing your boots. Bears lurk, thieves prowl, and a disease, dysentery, scurvy, cholera creeps closer than your shadow. Foods are luxury, eggs cost a day's wage, so you live on beans, bacon, and coffee that taste like regret. Bathing optional. Haircuts. Forget it. Yet you keep digging because you've heard the stories. One guy found a walnut-sized nugget and bought a saloon. Another lost it all in a poker game. That's the fever every shovel of dirt whispers maybe today. You're not just chasing gold. You're chasing a new life. Tell me in the comments what would keep you digging. The grind's brutal, but the dream's alive and we're not done yet. You're in the heart of the California Gold Rush 1849, where the promise of gold glints like a cruel tease. But picture this, every nugget you dig comes at a price steeper than sweat. The land you're tearing apart isn't empty. It's home to Native American tribes, hundreds of thousands strong, with lives woven into these hills and rivers. Then you and the other 49ers arrive a tidal wave of picks and greed. You're not just mining, you're ripping away their world. Rivers once thick with salmon choke on mud and mercury. Forests fall, wildlife vanishes, and native people, they're pushed out, hunted, enslaved, or worse. By 1870, California's native population drops by over 80%, a quiet genocide dressed up as progress. You see militias funded by the state offering bounties for scalps, and you turn away because gold fever makes you blind. It's not just natives paying the price. Mexican and Chilean miners here long before you face mobs and laws that tax them out of their claims. Chinese immigrants chasing their own dreams get beaten or killed, officials shrugging. Even black miners, free or enslaved, dodge threats at every turn. You're all fighting for the same shiny prize, but the fight's dirty. Claim stolen camps erupting in gunfire. Gold twists your morals, makes you bribery, maybe even kill. You came for a fortune, but the cost is heavier than your pan can hold. Drop a comment. What's the real price of chasing a dream? The rush keeps rolling and it's getting uglier. You're knee-deep in the chaos of the gold rush 1849, where California's a lawless frontier, and right or wrong depends on who's got the bigger gun. Picture yourself in a muddy camp, no sheriff, no courthouse, just you and a bunch of sunburned miners making it up as you go. You form mining codes, shaky agreements about claim sizes and rules, scratched out on a whiskey-soaked night. Break one, and you're facing a jury of exhausted men who'd rather be digging. Stole a shovel, you get a warning. Snatched a nugget from someone's claim that might get you a rope around your neck. Justice here isn't fair, it's fast. You see vigilance committees spring up, self-appointed enforcers who don't bother with trials. A thief could be whipped, run out of town, or left swinging from a tree, no evidence needed. Saloons double as courtrooms where a drunken insult sparks a shootout and a bad poker hand ends in blood. You're dodging claim jumpers, folks bold enough to steal your patch of dirt, and settling disputes with fists or bullets. Signs nailed to trees mark your spot, but they're as flimsy as the law. Yet in this mess, something's stirring. Camps start electing sheriffs, building jails instead of gallows. By 1849, California's drafting a constitution, becoming a state in 1850. You're watching the Wild West tame itself one bloody step at a time, but the scars of this makeshift justice linger like dust in the air. Tell me in the comments, would you trust a vigilante jury? The rush ain't over yet. You're in 1850 California, where the gold rush has turned a frontier into a global crossroads. Picture San Francisco Bay, sails snapping in the windships from every continent, unloading dreamers onto muddy shores. You're rubbing shoulders with miners from Chile who've worked South America's gold fields for years, their picks swinging with practiced ease. Men from Peru, Mexico, and the West Indies bring spices, songs, and skills older than the rush itself. From China, thousands cross the Pacific in creaking boats, fleeing famine for Gold Mountain, their faces set with quiet hope. Europe's here too, Irish escaping hunger, Germans dodging revolution, Frenchmen chasing a new start. Even Australians, fresh from their own gold hunts, show up for another roll of the dice. You hear a dozen languages in the tents around, you smell cooking fires laced with unfamiliar herbs. At first, it feels like a grand gathering, all of you chasing the same glint, but gold's a jealous prize. You see suspicion grow, accents mocked, successes resented. Laws like the foreign miners' tax hit non-Americans with steep fees, while Chinese miners face beating, sometimes worse, as officials look away. Mexican miners born on this land get driven off by mobs, yet they stay building temples, churches, communities in the margins. You're part of a world colliding not just for gold, but for a future. Drop a comment. What would you bring to this melting pot? The rush is global now, and it's messy. It's the mid-1850s, and you're still in California, but the gold rush's shine is fading. The easy gold, those glittering flakes you could pluck from shallow streams, is gone like a dream you can't quite recall. Picture yourself panning a river, your back aching, finding nothing but silt. The gold's still there, but it's buried deep, needing tools and cash you don't have. You see big outfits move in blasting hillsides with hydraulic jets, shredding landscapes and choking rivers with mercury. Farms downstream wither, and you wonder if the cost is worth it. Many 49ers are packing up their pockets as empty as their hopes. Some limp back home, blisters their only souvenir. Others chase new rumours, Nevada, Colorado, Oregon, hoping the next strikes the one. But you notice others staying trading picks for ploughs or shop counters. They're shopkeepers, ranchers, teachers now building roots where gold once ruled. You walk through San Francisco, no longer a tent city, but a real town with roads, banks, newspapers. California's a state now joined the Union in 1850, just 2 years after that first glint. The rush is over, but it's left something bigger. A land transformed, a myth born. You came for gold, but you're part of something else, a new California forged in ambition and ashes. Tell me in the comments, would you stay or chase the next rush? We're not done yet. The legacy's still unfolding. You're standing in California mid-1850s, where the gold rush's fever has cooled, but its impact burns on. Picture yourself in San Francisco, no longer a chaotic sprawl of tents, but a bustling city with cobblestone streets, banks and newspapers shouting headlines. The rivers you once panned are quieter now, but the land's alive with something new possibility. You see roads stretching where trails used to fade, ports humming with ships, and towns sprouting schools and courthouses. California's not just a frontier anymore. It's a state welcomed into the Union in 1850, a mere 2 years after James Marshall's fateful find. The miners who stayed aren't just digging, they're building. You spot a former prospector running a general store, another raising cattle, their dreams shifting from nuggets to roots. The gold rush didn't just bring gold, it brought people ambition and a raw energy that's reshaping the West. San Francisco's a gateway, now not a gamble with wharves and warehouses replacing abandoned ships. But you can't ignore the scars, native land's stolen rivers, poisoned communities pushed to the edges. This transformation's a double-edged sword, forging a new California on the bones of what came before. You're witnessing a land redefined not by gold alone, but by the stubborn will to make something last. Drop a comment, what would you build in this new California? The story's wrapping up, but its echo's still ringing. You're in modern California nearly 2 centuries after the gold rush, and its pulse still beats in the air. Picture yourself walking through a state that wears its past like a badge, the Golden State they call it, with a motto that shouts, "Eureka, I have found it." That glint in the river from 1848 didn't just spark a rush, it rewrote America's soul. You see it in the mythos, a nation taught that fortune isn't inherited, it's chased, dug, fought for with a shovel and a spark of madness. The gold rush birthed the American dream as you know it. Move fast, take risks, stake your claim. You're standing in San Francisco now, a global hub, its roots in those muddy boom towns. The railroads, the tech giants, the endless reinvention all trace back to that first nugget. But you feel the weight of the cost native tribes, nearly erased landscapes, scarred Chinese and Mexican miners, buried under the white prospector's legend. Still, people keep coming not for gold, but for something shinier, tech, fame, a fresh start. Silicon Valley's just a stone's throw from Sutter's Mill, and the hunger's the same, only the tools have changed. The gold rush wasn't just an event. It was a collision of ambition and illusion, showing humanity at its greediest and most resilient. Tell me in the comments, what's your modern gold rush? The story's done, but its dream keeps digging. Picture yourself in Tuscumbia, Alabama. June 27, 1880, where the air smells of cotton fields and summer sun. You're cradling a newborn Helen Adams Keller, her blue eyes sparkling with curiosity, her laugh as soft as a breeze. Her parents Arthur and Kate are beaming, thrilled at their healthy, eager girl. For 19 months you watch Helen grow, crawling across the porch, babbling to the family dog, chasing shadows with tiny hands. She's like any child, her world bursting with colour and sound, from the hum of crickets to her mother's lullabies. You feel the warmth of her small joys, the way she reaches for the garden's blooms, or giggles at a tickle. This is Helen's bright beginning, a life full of promise under Alabama's wide sky. But you sense a shadow creeping, a twist no one sees coming. In February 1882, a fever strikes scarlet fever, or meningitis, doctors aren't sure. And Helen burns for days, trembling, her mother hovering in terror. You hold your breath, praying she'll pull through. The fever breaks and she survives, but the cost is unthinkable. Her eyes no longer see, her ears no longer hear. The world slams shut, locking her in darkness and silence before she's 2. You're left wondering, how does a toddler so full of life navigate a world that's vanished? Drop a comment, where are you feeling this story from settle in? Helen's journey is just starting, and it's one for the ages. You're still in Tuscumbia, but the world's turned dim for little Helen Keller, now trapped in a silent, sightless cage. Imagine being her just shy of 2, your senses stolen by that cruel fever. You can't see your mother's smile, can't hear her voice calling your name. Your world shrunk to textures, smells, vibrations, but there's no language to name them. No way to share the storm inside. You're bursting with energy intelligence, but it's locked away like a bird in a box. You mimic actions, opening doors, nodding, but it's guesswork, not understanding. Frustration builds, then rage. By 5, you're a whirlwind, kicking, screaming, hitting not out of malice, but desperation. You grab food from plates, tear at clothes, even lash out at your baby sister, jealousy burning in your wordless heart. Picture the Keller's home meals, a battleground's furniture's at risk, and your parents are fraying. They see your sharpness, how you unlock cabinets or mimic chores, but it only makes your defiance scarier. Relatives whisper about asylums, but your mother, Kate, clings to hope, writing letters seeking anyone who can reach you. You're a wild child, not cruel, but caged, pounding on walls no one else can see. Somewhere out there help's coming, but right now you're alone in the dark, your mind a storm with no outlet. Tell me in the comments, what would you do with a child like Helen? Her story's about to shift, and it's a game changer. You're in Tuscumbia, Alabama, March 1887, and the air feels charged with change. Picture a young woman stepping off a dusty train, Anne Sullivan, just 20, half-blind herself, with a fire in her that no hardship could snuff out. She's here for Helen Keller, the wild child locked in a world of silence and darkness. You see Helen, 5 years old, hair-tangled eyes wild, greeting Anne with a scream that could crack glass. She's not cruel, just trapped, her fists flying like she's fighting the world itself. Anne's not fazed, she's seen worse growing up or scraping by in a world that didn't want her. Her job, to open the door to Helen's mind. She moves into a small cottage on the Keller property, pulling Helen away from her family's pity and indulgence. Imagine the clash Helen's tantrums meet Anne's iron will. Anne's method is tough structure discipline and a radical idea language. You watch her spell words into Helen's palm using the manual alphabet for the deaf. D-O-L-L, she signs, pressing a doll into Helen's hands. Helen mimics the motions quick as a whip, but to her it's just a game, not meaning. Anne doesn't flinch. She's relentless, spelling out every touch, cup, door, bread. You feel the tension. The stakes a teacher who won't quit a child who can't yet understand. Something's brewing, and it's bigger than either of them. Drop a comment, could you match Anne's grit? Stay tuned. This story's about to break wide open. It's April 5th, 1887 in Tuscumbia, and you're standing by a water pump, the air cool with spring's promise. Picture Helen Keller, 5, her world, a blur of rage and darkness clinging to Anne Sullivan's hand. Anne's been spelling words into Helen's palm for weeks. Cake key water, but they're just shapes, not sparks. Now Anne's trying something new. You see her lead Helen to the pump cold water, gushing over one of Helen's hands, while Anne spells W-A-T-E-R into the other, again and again. The water's icy, splashing on your boots, and Helen's fidgeting, confused. Then stop. You catch it. Helen freezes, her face shifts eyes wide with something new. The storm in her quiets. She drops the mug in her hand, touches the ground, and spells E-A-R-T-H. She grabs the pump and spells P-U-M-P. You're watching a miracle unfold, not with trumpets, but with trembling fingers. Helen gets it. Things have names, words are real touchable. Her mind lights up a door swinging open after years of being locked. By nightfall, she's learned 30 words, her hands hungry for more. You feel the weight of it. This isn't just a moment. It's the breaking of a prison. Helen's world, once silent, is alive with meaning. Tell me in the comments, what's a moment that changed your world? This story's soaring now, and Helen's just getting started. You're in Tuscumbia, Alabama, 1887, and Helen Keller's world has just cracked open. Picture her 5 years old, her fingers dancing with newfound purpose after that water pump miracle. Before she was trapped in silence. Now she's starving for words, and you're watching a mind wake up like a sunrise. Anne Sullivan's right there, spelling into Helen's palm nouns like flower verbs, like run adjectives, like soft. You see them in the garden. Helen's hands brushing roses as Anne signs F-L-O-W-E-R, or hugging a tree for T-R-E-E. She's not just learning names, she's devouring the world. You feel her hunger. She wants to know why the sun hides at night, what love feels like, why people cry. It's no rote memory. It's a soul-catching fire. Anne's relentless spinning stories into Helen's hands, Bible tales, Aesop's fables, poems that teach kindness, justice, right and wrong. You watch Helen learn manners too, her tantrums fading as she grasps please and thank you. She's writing now, simple sentences scratched on a slate, each word a step toward being seen. Anne's working 16-hour days translating the world for a girl who's rewriting her own. You're awed by their bond teacher-mentor friend closer than blood. Newspapers start buzzing about the miracle child, but Helen's not slowing down. She's a comet blazing toward a future no one could have dreamed. Drop a comment. What's a spark that woke your mind? Helen's story's climbing higher and it's electric. It's 1890 and you're with Helen Keller in Boston, where she's chasing a dream that sounds impossible. Picture her at 10 already reading Braille, writing letters, debating big ideas with Anne Sullivan. But Helen's not content. She doesn't just want to communicate. She wants to speak to shape words she's never heard with a voice she's never known. You're at the Horace Mann School for the Deaf, where Sarah Fuller, a speech teacher, takes on the challenge. Imagine Helen's fingers pressed to Sarah's lips, cheeks, throat feeling the hum of sound, the dance of tongue and breath. You see her mimic letter by letter, her face tense with effort. By T, her first word comes out rough, barely clear, then I. Small steps, giant courage. She practices for hours in front of mirrors, touching her own face, repeating sounds until her throat aches. You feel the grind, her voice is hard to understand, even for those close to her. But Helen's not here for easy. To her, speech is a bridge to a world she's been locked out of. Anne's by her side, cheering, correcting, celebrating every syllable. By 12, Helen's speaking sentences, reciting poems, even joking, though most need an interpreter to catch her words. You're watching a girl with no memory of sound create a voice from sheer will. She's not just talking, she's defying every limit. Tell me in the comments what's a barrier you've broken. Helen's voice is rising, and she's got more to say. You're in Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1900, and Helen Keller's about to rewrite what's possible. Picture her now 20-under, not just a miracle child, but a fierce scholar aiming for something no deaf-blind person's ever done college. You see her at the Cambridge School for Young Ladies prepping for Radcliffe Harvard's sister school. It's brutal. Anne Sullivan's by her side, spelling entire lectures into Helen's palm letter by letter, hour after hour. Imagine studying Latin, French, philosophy and literature when you can't see the board or hear the professor. Every textbook's in Braille, every test dictated word by painful word. You feel her exhaustion, sore hands, late nights, moments of doubt. But Helen's got a fire no obstacle can douse. She's accepted to Radcliffe, and you're watching her become a symbol, newspapers trailing her every move. Photographers snap her reading writing, but Helen's no spectacle. She's here to learn, equal to anyone. Some professors doubt her, grumble about Anne's presence, but Helen proves them wrong, her essays sharp, her mind sharper. By 1904, at 24, she graduates cum laude, the first deaf-blind person with a college degree. You're awed. This isn't just a diploma. It's a shout that disability doesn't mean defeat. But Helen's not stopping. She's turning to activism, ready to fight for the marginalised. Drop a comment what's a goal you've chased against the odds. Helen's story's hitting new heights, and she's just warming up. You're with Helen Keller, now a global force, her voice through fingers and fierce words shaking the world. Picture her in the early 20th century, no longer just a student, but a warrior for justice. You see her advocating for the blind and deaf, but she doesn't stop there. She's tackling poverty, women's suffrage, racism, child labour, even war. Joining the Socialist Party in 1909, she calls out capitalism's crush on the poor, shocking fans who loved her triumph, but not her truth. I'm blind and deaf, she snaps, but not to injustice or the cries of the suffering. You're at her lectures. Anne Sullivan interpreting as Helen's words electrify crowds. She meets presidents, authors, revolutionaries, her presence a spark. You watch her campaign for the American Foundation for the Blind, pushing for Braille books and equal education. She writes books, essays, her pen slicing through apathy. By the 1920s, Anne's health fades and her death in 1936 guts Helen, but she keeps going with Polly Thompson, travelling 35 countries, Japan, Cairo, Moscow crowds gathering just to touch her fire. In 1948, she's in post-war Japan, comforting soldiers and children in ruins. Medals pile up like the Presidential Medal of Freedom, but Helen cares more about blind kids reading deaf adults working. You feel her legacy, a woman who turned silence into a roar for the forgotten. Tell me in the comments, what cause would you fight for? Helen's story ends here, but her echo never fades. You're standing by the Nile, sunlight glinting off its waters, the desert stretching endless behind you. It's ancient Egypt, and fashion's more than cloth. It's sacred, a language of gods and status. Picture yourself draped in linen light as a whisper spun from flax that drinks the river's edge. It's cool against your skin, vital in this heat, but every fold tells a story. Pharaohs stride in pleated kilts, golden collars, heavy with lapis and turquoise, each colour a code, white for purity, green for fertility, blue for the divine. You see nobles wrapped like living statues, their intricate weaves shouting wealth. Children run bare until puberty, their nakedness a badge of innocence, while you may be a priest or merchant wear robes dyed with meaning. Across the Fertile Crescent in Mesopotamia, you'd trade linen for wool skirts for men, layered robes for women, veils marking noble blood as Hammurabi's code decrees who wears what. In India, you're folding a sari cotton or early silk vibrant with indigo and madder root. Each drape a map of your region, your ritual. In China, silks are revolution guarded like a war secret reserved for emperors in robes that shimmer like starlight. You're not just dressed, you're speaking, separating king from servant, mortal from god. Drop a comment, what would your ancient outfit say about you settle in? Fashion's journey is just spinning its first thread. You're strolling through Athens now, where marble gleams and philosophy shapes the air. It's ancient Greece, and fashion's a quiet hymn to balance. Picture yourself in a chiton, a rectangle of linen pinned at your shoulders, belted to fall in soft folds. Women drape peplos or cloaks, each pleat a nod to harmony like a sculpture come alive. Your sandals are simple hair tied back jewellery, subtle beauty here is moral simplicity a virtue. You feel the restraint, the elegance of not shouting your status. Then you're in Rome and the vibe shifts, think spectacle power layers. You're swathed in a toga 20 feet of wool, draped just so a Roman citizen's badge. Only men like you can wear it, and not just any toga. Senators get purple stripes, emperors, gold embroidery, each a costume of clout. Underneath a tunic knee-length for men, longer for women, may be dyed in murex purple precious than gold. You see women in stolas, married ones, marked by their shawls, hair piled high with ivory pins. Even slaves have a role defined by what they can't wear. Every fold screams your rank, your role, your Rome. You're not just dressed, you're the state itself stitched into every seam. Tell me in the comments, would you rock a toga or keep it Greek? Fashion's about to get wilder, so stick around. You're journeying along the Silk Road, a dusty ribbon stretching from China's palaces to Mediterranean ports, where fashion flows like a river of ideas. Picture yourself in Tang Dynasty China, draped in silk so fine it whispers against your skin, dyed in imperial yellow colour for emperors forbidden to commoners. Your robes embroidered with dragons and clouds, each stitch a map of your rank, your destiny. Silk's not just fabric here, its power guarded like a state secret spun from cocoons Empress Lezu herself legendarily discovered. You trade eastward to India, where saris glow with turmeric and indigo, their folds a signature of caste and village. You wrap one feeling, the cotton's soft weight, its patterns telling stories older than stone. In Japan's Heian court, you're layered in Junihito robes, silk sleeves cascading like poetry colours coded to season and status. As samurai rise, you don a kimono, its crest bold for warriors, delicate for geisha, a canvas of loyalty or art. You're trading bolts of these fabrics, silk, cotton, wool along caravan routes, each exchange weaving cultures together. You smell spice and sweat, hear the clink of coins and foreign tongues. This isn't just trade, it's a fashion superhighway stitching east to west. You're wearing history, every thread a story of refinement and restraint. Drop a comment, what Silk Road style would you claim? The journey's heating up and fashion's about to shift gears. You're in medieval Europe, where the clank of armour and flicker of candlelight set the stage. Fashion here isn't just clothing, it's your identity carved in cloth. Picture yourself as a peasant scratching out a living in coarse wool, undyed and rough, the colour of earth and toil. Now imagine a noble swathed in velvet fur-lined cloaks, trailing like a boast jewels glinting on belts and braids. Your dye says it all, deep blue screams wealth scarlets for royalty, or cardinals hoarded like gold. You're bound by sumptuary laws, strict rules dictating who wears what. Try slipping into silk without noble blood, and you're not just tacky, you're breaking the law, risking fines or worse. Every thread's a chess move, signalling piety or power. You see knights in embroidered tunics, their status sewn into every seam, while women's gowns hug tight sleeves trailing to prove they don't lift a finger. In church, You're all draped in humility, but the rich still shine their piety a performance. You're navigating a world where a misplaced ribbon could spark a feud, where clothing draws lines between serf and lord sharper than any blade. It's not just about looking good, it's about surviving a society that judges you by your hemline. Tell me in the comments what medieval look would you pull off fashion's about to get flashier, so stay with me. You're in Renaissance Italy, Florence or Venice, where fashion's a canvas and every outfit's a masterpiece. Picture yourself in a velvet gown, heavy with embroidery sleeves slashed to show silk, beneath defying gravity like the art on the walls. Men strut in puffed doublets, codpieces bold as their egos, while women's bodices cinch tight, turning bodies into architectural feats. You feel the weight of the fabric yards of it proclaiming you don't work, don't sweat, don't move without purpose. Every stitch whispers your lineage, your alliances, maybe a subtle jab at a rival house. You're not just dressed. You're a walking story, each jewel and fold a chapter of power. The Renaissance is all about rebirth, and fashion's no exception. It's theatrical, excessive, a stage for the human spirit. You see merchants in fur-lined cloaks, their wealth louder than their words, and noble women in gowns so wide they brush both sides of a doorway. Corsets are creeping in, not just for posture, but to sculpt the ideal silhouette, a hint of the restraint to come. You're moving through markets where silk from the East meets Italian flair, every garment a negotiation of status and art. To wear less is to be less. To wear more is to rule the room. Drop a comment, what Renaissance look would you steal fashion's about to hit a new peak, so hang on tight. You're at Versailles, 17th century France, where Louis XIV's court turns fashion into a political weapon. Picture yourself in a brocade coat, gold embroidery, catching the candlelight lace cuffs spilling like foam red-heeled shoes, clicking as you bow. Your wig's a powdered tower, maybe topped with ribbons, or a tiny ship, yes, really. Women glide in gowns, stretched wide by pannier skirts, billowing like sails so vast you sidestep through doors. Your powdered white cheeks, rouged red beauty spots placed like coded messages. Every outfit's a performance, a way to rise above the rabble and curry the king's favour. You feel the weight, not just of silk, but of expectation. Fashion here isn't just style, it's policy, a signal of loyalty to the Sun King. A wrong cut could tank your reputation, a perfect one might win a title. You're navigating a world where wealth is power and power is worn. The nobility's excess screams detachment silk stockings and towering wigs say you're untouchable. But you sense the storm brewing. The commoners outside these gilded walls are hungry, and all this satin looks like a target. To be seen is everything to be seen, wrong is ruin. You're dressed for a game where the stakes are your future. Tell me in the comments, could you handle Versailles' fashion gauntlet? The revolution's coming, and it's about to flip the script. You're in Paris 1789, where the air crackles with revolt and fashion's caught in the crossfire. Picture yourself in the shadow of Versailles, where silk and wigs once ruled, but now the French Revolution's tearing it all down. You ditch the powdered curls and panniers for something stark plain trousers, a simple jacket, the sans-culottes, badge of defiance. These without breeches folks aren't just ditching aristocratic frills. They're wearing rebellion, their working-class threads a middle finger to the elite. You feel the shift extravagance isn't just tacky, it's deadly. A velvet coat could land you on the guillotine, where wigs and corsets fall alongside crowns. The mob storms not just palaces, but the idea of excess, every ruffle, a symbol of bread stolen from the poor. You're drawn to classical ideals, now clean lines, Greek-inspired gowns flowing like marble statues, free of heavy makeup or towering hair. Even Napoleon gets it, his sharp military uniform screaming authority, while Josephine's high-waisted dresses redefine elegance with airy simplicity. You're not just dressing. You're surviving your clothes, a vote for a new world. Fashion's gone democratic, no longer a lord's game, but a people's statement. You're part of a seismic change where what you wear isn't about wealth. It's about identity forged in blood and hope. Drop a comment. What revolutionary style would you rock? Fashion's about to get industrial, so stay tuned. You're in the 19th century where steam engines roar and fashion's getting a makeover. Picture yourself in a bustling city, the hum of textile looms in the air. The Industrial Revolution's changed everything. Machine spin, dye and stitch. Faster than any hand making clothes, cheaper. Reachable for more than just the rich. You're browsing a department store, a new beast in Paris or London. Shelves stacked with ready-made dresses and coats. You feel the shift fashions trickling down, not just for lords but for clerks and shopgirls too. Yet style's still a spectacle. Women's dresses balloon with crinolines, steel cages under skirts, some 6 feet wide, forcing you to glide sideways through doors. You're a walking statement. If you can wear this much fabric, you're rich enough to skip work. Corsets cinch waists to wasp-like slivers, your breath a shallow price for the hourglass ideal.